For some reason, the IEC thinks it is untouchable and it is law unto itself, and that it doesn't listen to anyone except the ANC and Paul Mashatile in particular because of his friendship with the CEO of the IEC, and that they can always manipulate and run the CEO of the IEC from Lituli House. And because the attitude of the IEC, you can see that it's an attitude of a person who's got political protection. You know, when you think you've got political protection and you are untouchable, you behave exactly like that. And I think that it is an attitude that is very unfortunate, because IEC as an institution should be the most transparent and most open and to persuasion, because it deals with different constituencies and cannot be married to political parties. We are not shocked, because when Mashinini was appointed, we actually pointed to that direction. That is one individual who's compromised and who's aligned to politicians. And we see that now in his conduct together with the CEO of the IEC. And they are going to undermine the credibility of the former Deputy Chief Justice. Because you can't appoint such a senior judicial person and act as if nothing happened. Even if the Museneke comes and says, no, the elections must continue, we'll say, yeah, I mean, it has always been like that. That's why the IEC went on to launch. He came here to just rubber stamp the decision of the IEC. So they are compromising an extremely independent man, the most objective man, the most credible man, a man who has demonstrated over a period of time that he's got an ear and he can listen and he can be persuaded. That's why we welcomed the appointment of the former Deputy Chief Justice, because he's a man of integrity. But what the IEC is doing to him, they will destroy him. If they've got respect for him, they should have waited, and the former Deputy Chief Justice said he will give us a report by July. He has already called for political parties to make submissions, SG. Yes. And we're already doing that. We're going to make our submission, and we actually in our submission are going to ask him to allow us to also come and make oral submission, so that beyond issues of writing, we must also be able to present and persuade him to arrive at a different conclusion. But how the IEC is going about it, appoint him, spend money on him, and then say to us, we are ready to go, as if we don't care what former Deputy Chief Justice has to say. It's really unfair on the former Deputy Chief Justice, but also unfair to the taxpayers who are paying money on a program that the IEC doesn't take serious. They are engaged in wasteful expenditure. And we hope that the Auditor General will actually arrive at a similar conclusion. We are going to write to the Auditor General to scrutinize this transaction as to why was it necessary if you are running two parallel things. They are driven, some of them, by corruption. They can't wait to print posters of the IEC calling for elections and ballot papers and T-shirts and contracting their own relatives. There's nothing else that is driving them except a political protection and corrupt activities. Because if they were driven by rationality and the need to save life, they would have waited for former Deputy Chief Justice to release this report. He has done a wonderful job with S.D. Meni. He has done a wonderful job as a Deputy Chief Justice, who many of us had wanted him to be a Chief Justice at the time, because he was one of the most qualified, credible judicial officer at the time. So we really think that the IEC is informed by something else other than what it's supposed to inform the IEC. We're waiting for Moseneke to finish his report. Based on Moseneke's report, we'll announce our next move. Elections is not what happens on the day of elections. It's not. Elections is about what happens before the elections. How do you say you don't allow more than 100 people inside and you don't allow more than 250 people outside? My branch of the EFF has got 700 members. We must now choose a candidate. Which 250 people, members of the EFF, are going to be allowed inside when they choose a candidate? Which criteria are we going to use to determine of these 700 members, which 250 must come inside? Unless we are encouraged to overlook those regulations, they are not worth the paper they are written on. The ANC uses the same method with the EFF to choose candidates. How are they going to choose candidates? Are they going to follow the regulations? And if they are going to follow regulations in branches where they've got more than 250 members, how are they going to choose members to come into the meetings? Because if I go to my branch and I say only 100 will be allowed in this hall since it's cold, I'm going to be accused that I've only allowed those who support my candidate inside. And knowing you are going to join them. That Malema only brought his people into the hall and excluded 600 plus members of the EFF. That is first. That is the first thing that is going to undermine democracy. Because it's not about what happens on the day. It's about what happens with choosing of candidates. After choosing candidates, Mbuyiseni is what? Is 130 what? What 100 and what number? 135. 135. It has got 10,000 registered voters. After I choose a candidate for that ward, which has got 10,000 registered voters, I must now send this candidate to go and campaign in that community. He must speak to 10,000 people of that ward. Then he brings, come and meet the EFF candidate who's coming to campaign. 250 people come in. We close the gate. Then 9,750 people are closed outside because of COVID-19 regulations which you must comply with. You expect those people who are locked outside to come and vote for you after you locked them outside and you told them, no, there is COVID, you can't all come in. How practical are we going to campaign if we are to keep consistent with COVID-19 protocols? So campaign constitute a critical component of a free and fair elections. As we speak now, he said, Ramaphosa from his mouth, even political party activities are suspended. This new level 2. They said no activity of politics, everything is suspended. How are we going to conduct a campaign if we are suspended? Worse, new parties. I hear Mashaba opening his loud mouth saying, elections must come, elections must come. Where is he going to campaign? People don't know him. He needs the country to be opened for him to campaign. And to open the country now will be to risk the lives of our people. So there will not be free and fair elections in South Africa when one of its critical components, called campaigning, is suspended according to COVID-19 regulations. So the people who are saying the elections must go on, it is the people who are not prepared to comply with COVID-19 regulations. And they are prepared to compromise the lives of our people because they've got uncontrollable love for power. If we had a municipality DP and we say this, maybe they will say, they don't want to leave power. No, we don't have a municipality. We don't say this because we're driven by wanting to hold into power at all costs. If anything, we should be demanding that the elections must come, because we are more than ready as the EFF. But we cannot do that because we love the people of South Africa. We love black people. We love African people who, when they are sick, they don't have medical aid to be treated in the best facilities. These politicians who are saying, let's go on with elections, whether people are going to get sick or not, they've got medical aid. All of them, they've got medical aid, permit, and all types of medical aid. They've got salaries. They don't care about this downtrodden masses of our people who are going to be killed. On the day of election, what's going to happen? Are we going to be told we must come 250 per day to vote 250 per day? Is this election going to be held over a period of 6 months where 250 will vote per voting station in line with COVID-19 regulations? Because this third wave, it has not started. Remember, we are getting third wave under winter. You know very well that South Africans under winter are not social people. We don't socialize a lot. We stay at home. Still, we get attacked. What's going to happen when springs come? When now the doors open, we now go out, not because of COVID. Winter is gone. This is not going to go down anytime soon. You have launched an election campaign. You say no elections, let's go and campaign. The EFF doesn't have money. It takes the little cents that we take. We print T-shirts, we print posters, we do all of that. In August, Moseneke says no election must take place. What happens to this material we have printed? Return 27 October, vote EFF 27 October. What's going to happen to it? Where are we going to get the money? Is the IEC going to refund us this money that we don't have? Whereas the IEC is not financing local government, by the way. They only give money for provincial and national government elections. They don't give us money for local government elections. We're using money from our own coffers. Even when there is uncertainty, IEC says, no, go and campaign and print posters. Buy adverts on radio. Buy advert on TV. One advert, prime time on SABC, is not less than 250,000. We do that. We say to people, no, register to vote EFF. We pay for that advert. They come and say elections are postponed. What do we do? The writers of this constitution knew that this constitution is a living document which must speak to the dynamics that are taking place at all material times. This constitution is not stagnant. What if there was a war here and shooting all over? We must still hold elections even when people are shooting each other all over. Because we declared this pandemic to be a war. It must be treated the same way we treat the state of war. No, the attitude are the same. So this foregone conclusion is driven by something else other than the IEC's mandate to deliver free and fair election. That they are driven by something else, and they are undermining the old man. We have full confidence in Moseneke, and we'll submit ourselves to Moseneke, and we'll make our submission there.